Hello everybody and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Today we're going to be reviewing and discussing the movie Ring Zero Birthday, or if you're from Japan, Ringu Zero Birthday. I've seen some titles without the birthday, but I'm just going to include the birthday, which came out in the year 2000. Guys, very serious here. If you have nobody to talk to about the Ring or Ringu franchise, well, guess what? I didn't have anybody to talk to either, so I'm talking to my phone, but I'm doing it for all of you because now you get to talk to me. So if you enjoy and love talking Ring and the Ring franchise, you have finally found the right home, and please consider joining here. But as we jump into the review and discussion for this movie, if you're finding me for the first time, if you've been keeping up with this beautiful series that we're doing here together, this is a very random, pretty much out of nowhere review series where one of my goals with starting this channel is to obviously talk about more movies, but then also expose myself to movies I wouldn't typically watch in my free time. And one of my weakest, most ignorant blind spots I have as a film lover is specifically with foreign films. So kind of a slow couple months with new releases here, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of check out a pretty popular foreign film franchise that also has American versions as well. So like I've said before, we are going to be covering the first 3 Japanese movies, which we've hit our last one today. Then we're going to jump over to the American Ring franchise, cover those 3, do some comparison videos, do some fun rankings. So very excited to continue delving into this with everybody here. So without further ado, let's start talking about Ring Zero, starting with the positives or just the things that I enjoyed most about this movie. Now, with prequel movies, I feel like I'm kind of hit or miss with them. I feel like with prequels, you can do a lot of interesting things. You can really kind of recontextualize a lot of things. You can give new information that makes the other movies that we love even better. There are tons of examples of that, but then there are the complete opposite and tons of examples of those as well, where you get a prequel that really just feels so unneeded or does a prequel and retcons things, which makes your movie franchise even worse. So I was so kind of nervous on what to expect with Ring Zero, since it is a prequel to the first 2 Ring movies. And at least from the start with this one, I did kind of appreciate the setup and information we get for Sadako, the character that we're going to be following through this movie. Obviously, we know her. Everybody knows her as the girl crawling out of the TV that kills people. So it's pretty compelling, I guess, to go back and see this isolated girl, this tragic character, and especially since we're picking up right after chronologically her mother's suicide, we just see her at a very, very low point. So when the movie started, I found myself kind of invested and interested in this girl's arc, where we were going. Were we gonna get some more information about her that kind of recontextualizes the events of the first 2 movies? So Sadako is a very interesting character to follow in a prequel because there's a lot of good mystery around her, but then you could see them kind of filling in the gaps and doing something really interesting with her. And I like the idea that we pick up with Sadako here even before the curse tapes really exist here. And instead, they kind of replace that with Sadako herself, where she has this effect and curse-like abilities onto other people. When she joins this drama club that we spend a majority of our time with, people start having visions, dreams, seeing people, seeing things behind her, seeing figures, seeing and talking about dreams about a creepy well, and it creates this very unsettling presence and vibe around her. So I like that they kind of replaced the cursed tape idea, still introduced an element that carries those same ideas, because it kind of felt like Sadako herself is this almost portable cursed tape in human form, where just being around her kind of starts to affect people mentally and emotionally, and I thought that was a very interesting concept. And trust me, my lord, we will get into my issues with this movie, but I will say there is one very well done, incredible standout scene that I was just really wishing the majority of the movie gave me that atmosphere. I believe this scene takes place close to the climax of the movie or right before the climax of the movie during the stage play at one of the initial performances, where there's this character that is usually in the sound booth area. He gets kind of taken out or busy with something else, and then we get this other girl character who I believe is his sister in the movie, and her whole angle and goal is to prove Sadako is evil, something's up with her, and make her brother kind of see that. So she replaces the musical or drama club performance audio with the audio from the psychic experiment we learned about in the first movie with Sadako, her mother, and Sadako kills one of the news reporters, and we later learn out that she infected and eventually killed everybody else. I think this is easily the best part of the film here, and as that audio starts to play over the speakers, Sadako starts to have this on-stage mental breakdown, this traumatic, almost PTSD-like breakdown in the middle of her performance, and we get these intercut flashes of the experiment scene that we've seen before, but played in this movie, some reuse footage, but then they also do some cool altered and distorted new footage that is also mixed with the old footage, intercut with what is going on with Sadako on stage, done in such an incredibly unsettling way. And I think what made this scene stand out to me the most is really the sound design and sound effects that they go for. They cut the audio in and out consistently in a way that really made me feel disoriented, and it never once relied on jump scares. It just finally created that eerie, uncomfortable atmosphere that I was wanting for the majority of the movie. It really went back to those classic scares the first Ring movie provided for me, where not a lot of jump scares, but atmosphere, building that tension, showing flashes of creepy imagery, or just showing scenes that made you feel so disoriented and just waiting for something eerie and disturbing to pop up on screen. And I absolutely love that scene in this movie here. But like I was just hinting at, unfortunately, that is all for my positives. So let's jump on over to my negatives, or the things that I just hated about this movie. And one of the biggest issues that stood out to me is, unfortunately, this movie's pacing. I especially noticed it within that first 40 to 45 minutes. The movie has a significant issue where it just feels really repetitive, and honestly, this boring cycle that the movie just consistently dragged for me. We spend so much time with Sadako. They set her up to be interesting, where we're thinking we're going to get some more needed information. We're seeing her at this low point, maybe some kind of tragic arc that recontextualizes the first couple movies. That does not happen. We follow Sadako at drama club, and she is consistently rehearsing scenes over and over for a play that doesn't really have anything to do with the movie. There is nothing really tying it together. I really do not care about it. And I swear to God, within the first 40 minutes, there is just the same scenes over and over again, where the drama club is gossiping about how weird and uncomfortable Sadako makes them. Sadako is isolated, staring off into space. Someone sees something creepy behind her, or Sadako is seeing something creepy behind somebody else, and then it just keeps repeating that for the first 40 minutes without building any tension whatsoever. And the scares are almost non-existent and don't really help this movie's experience all that much. Again, we kind of see someone seeing Sadako or seeing her do something kind of weird. Then maybe they're waking up from a dream, or Sadako's seeing something that is in the background. It gets a little bit closer, but then she either wakes up or goes back to drama club rehearsal. It is repetitive, uninspired, and never scared me once. There's so many countless scenes of just Sadako walking around and staring at people in this awkward way where I genuinely couldn't tell if the filmmakers thought they were building this creepy character with this mystical aura around her, or if they thought it would come off as creepy or emotional, kind of seeing this girl at this stage of her life, but it just kind of made me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, I think we should all just leave this girl alone. It looks like she's struggling. Maybe she needs somebody to talk to. And my God, is the romance plot just unexpected, but not in a good way and just poorly executed. I did not go into the Ring prequel to follow Sadako and her little 24-hour boyfriend here. There's this relationship between Sadako and that soundstage guy from the play. Doesn't work at all. There's no chemistry, no build-up, and somehow after barely interacting and majority of the time just staring at each other, they're suddenly so emotionally attached. At one point, Sadako, after their second or third conversation, is already opening up about her ability to see people that aren't there, and then that is basically what the movie uses as its critical foundation for their connection and relationship, because he doesn't really judge her for that. Doesn't know anything really else about her. We don't know anything else about her other than the things that we already know, and now this dude is kind of catching up with the lore of the franchise, but then that causes him to fall in love with her, and the whole thing just starts to feel weirdly melodramatic, like some cheesy Hallmark style romance movie where they're having discussions about running away together, and instead of real emotion, it's just awkward staring, forced intensity with zero chemistry. And like I was hinting at, I believe in the beginning of this video, is that this does follow and fall into one of those awful prequel problems where the movie never once justifies why it's existing. It has both a sequel problem and a prequel problem, I would say, at the same time. With the sequel problem, we're watching characters uncover information and lore that we already know about in previous films, and we're just kind of waiting for everybody to catch up. And it also has the prequel problem where it's explaining things that never needed to be explained in the first place and providing answers that don't make a difference for the franchise. Like, for example, one of the best parts of the Ring movies is just how mysterious Sadako as a character really was. We got just enough information to understand the curse, but never to really fully explain it. And that's what made it so unsettling. And unfortunately, this movie kind of tries its best to remove and chisel away at some of that mystery. They make Sadako, the main character here, turn her more into this what's supposed to be sympathetic character, even though it never really comes off like that, fully explain the person that she is, and it kind of takes away that unknown element the first couple movies had, but especially that first one. And the movie never replaced that mystery with anything new or compelling. That would be the difference right there. If you take away from the mystery, you gotta add something that recontextualizes things or adds something to the experience of those first couple Ring movies. And even if I didn't love the concept, I could have forgiven the movie if it maybe added new information, recontextualizes things, or expanded the lore in an interesting way. But instead, it just repeats and tells you things you already know, and we just get to follow sad Sadako around for almost 2 hours. And again, in that first movie, a little bit in the second movie, we kind of already get all the information we need to know about Sadako. Like, seeing this stage of her life really didn't add anything. We're seeing the backstory of Sadako. She is this young woman born with these psychic abilities from her mother, Shizuko, and we get to see and hear about her mother's public psychic demonstration that went wrong, leading to her mother's suicide, and Sadako grows up in fear and isolation, trying her best to control these dark tendencies. And that fear and repression eventually lead to what we know, her powers becoming more unstable, and ultimately leading to her falling down the well and staying down there and being a curse that is living on. And we don't get anything else other than that. What I just told you is information I pulled from my experience in the first movie. We kind of just get that same story here, and that's the problem, because the movie takes what was originally a short, mysterious part of the first film, stretches it out into the longest Ring movie so far, and it feels like we're watching a story that we kind of already know the beginning and end, so that middle part doesn't really matter because they don't choose to do anything that matters with it. To me, it almost kind of reminded me of, I'm blanking on the title, but that Nicolas Cage Jesus horror movie that came out a year or two ago. I kind of enjoyed the vibe and atmosphere to that movie, but it's showing and following Jesus's teenage years pretty much, where we all know the story of his birth and the beginning. We know how it ends, but those middle years, there's stuff you could do. They don't really choose to do anything, and it's just kind of Jesus being tempted and then ultimately not being tempted. So it's just didn't really add anything to the Christian lore, and this Ring Zero movie adds nothing to the Ring lore. And unfortunately, that leads to one of my biggest disappointments with this movie is just its slow pace, lethargic trudge to the ending here. The ending is just basically the climax of showing Sadako being thrown down that well, but we already knew that. We saw that in earlier films. So instead of it feeling impactful, it just feels like we're retreading old grounds and seeing something in color this time. The only new idea this movie introduces is the concept that there are essentially two sides to Sadako and they split into two separate people. Almost like two different versions that I assume split during the experiments and eventually merge back together when they're in close proximity with each other and become more evil or malevolent. And on paper, kind of interesting, but in execution, it raised more questions for me, like why? Why does this happen? What does it actually change? And does it affect anything moving forward or the other two movies we just watched? And the answer to all of those is no, or I don't know. It introduces a concept that is interesting, but then they don't do anything with it. It doesn't add anything meaningful to the story, lore, or the character of Sadako, and that's just what I'm kind of left with, because overall, for Ring Zero, this is a very slow, repetitive prequel that strips away the mystery of Sadako and adds little to nothing to the story, aside from one standout sequence that briefly captures the atmosphere the original really had going for it. Other than that, not much offered here. So for my rating for this movie, this is a movie you can skip. I promise you. It is one that I'm never going to watch again, rent again, ask my friend to download it on his Plex server again. I will ask him to remove it because it's taking up precious storage at the moment. So guys, you have my thoughts here on Ring Zero. Unfortunately, with this Ring franchise, we have been going on a downhill. I'm excited to get over to the American versions because I've only seen the first one once, like 10 years ago. Never seen it again, so all of those will be almost fresh new first-time watches for me. But as of today's video, you have my thoughts and feelings on Ring Zero. Please let me know, have you seen this movie? Do you like it more than me? Do you hate it more than me? Do you agree with me? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings on your experience with this movie. And since we covered the first three mainline Japanese ones, let me know your favorite out of the three. Let me know if any more of the Japanese versions are worth covering or worth watching in your opinion. Maybe I'll cover them, maybe I won't. Let's see how these videos do. So that's about it. I appreciate anybody watching my videos. It means so much to me, so thanks again. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.